Hello, and thanks again for joining us for another PolyWise webinar. My name is Keith Sang. I'm the PolyWorks Training Manager here at 3D Scanners UK, and today I'm going to show you how we can install and use PolyWorks ReportLoop. It's a free plugin you can download and install to work with Microsoft Excel, allowing you to connect directly to PolyWorks. So rather than generating your typical report in PolyWorks or exporting out the Excel documents and then having to then potentially, worst case scenario, copy and paste that information from one Excel spreadsheet into your kind of dedicated Excel documentations, formatted Excel spreadsheets, or even kind of measurement plans. Rather than copy and paste every time, what you could do is actually connect your Excel workbook straight to PolyWorks and then directly insert information from PolyWorks into those spreadsheets. PolyWorks won't just simply insert the values though. It will actually establish a proper connection between the cell and PolyWorks. So the idea of that is if anything changes in your inspection project, if you were to tweak or change any of the extraction parameters, update any of the property names and so forth, all that information can then update into the Excel spreadsheet straight away, rather than you again having to export things out, copy and paste just to update things, potentially missing things. Not just that, you can actually insert, besides numerical information, words, text, and so forth, you can also insert actual snapshots and stuff as well in there if you wanted to. Now, before we do that, I just want to quickly show you, we actually have a new website up. Our website is again 3dscanners.co.uk, and here we can actually go ahead and jump into our list of PolyWorks products, and obviously ReportLoop is available in here with some information, even an old video demonstrating the ReportLoop in action, but I'll do a more up-to-date version of that for you here today. We have a support tab where we can actually go to our software upgrades, and in here you can actually download any new version of PolyWorks, be it the inspection module, ReportLoop, and so forth. Just a note though, in order for you to download, it will ask for a password. If you don't have access to that, just go ahead and click on contact us to request access. I will email you back the password so you can actually download direct from us if need be. Otherwise, if you've still got your logins for the technical support zone, feel free to jump on there and you can download it from there as well if need be. Now I've already done that. I've already downloaded the installation file. The latest version is 2.4, so go ahead and run that. Install this, should be reasonably quick. And once that's done, I'll go ahead and actually launch Microsoft Excel. So I'm going to launch my Excel. I'm running Microsoft 365. I believe this is compatible with standalone versions as well. Maybe as far back as 2010, but 2013, 2016 should work. But if you're using the latest version of 365, even better. Start a brand new workbook, and you can see here in this example I have the PolyWorks ReportLoop ribbon available. If that doesn't appear in there, then you may need to actually enable the plugin manually by going to File, into your Options, jump into the Add-ins tab there, and right at the bottom there where it says Manage Excel Add-ins, click on the Go button. And you can see there, it gives us a list of items that you can turn on or off. In this case, just make sure that PolyWorks ReportLoop add-in is ticked on. Okay, that, and you will get access to this ribbon. Before we go any further, I just want to quickly show you as well. We currently have a workspace available with an inspection project that I have already opened up as well. And in here, there's a variety of measurements that we've done, a complete inspection. So we actually have obviously the CAD for the part, the scan of the part. We've got a variety of features, cross-section, comparison points, and even some calipers there. So this is a complete inspection project, followed by, rather than doing simple best fit alignment, we then did a more dedicated data reference frame alignment afterwards. From there, we even have report items at the bottom here. So I mentioned briefly that you can insert your kind of snapshots and stuff from PolyWorks into your Excel spreadsheet, but in order for you to do that, you will need those items in the actual tree itself, not just into the actual report document or the report layout. We do that by actually going into our options so the PolyWorks inspector options, opening up the objects branch and then clicking on reports. And in here you can see the report item destination normally defaults to active formatted report. So whenever you do take a snapshot or actually create a table, it actually normally dumps it straight into the report pages for you. But this is the alternative. You can actually have it sent straight to the tree view, which for any users who've been using PolyWorks for a number of years now, we're talking back 2014 maybe, and prior to that, PolyWorks used to have all the items go straight into a tree, and you would actually have to then manually drag and drop that information into your report pages when you want them. But then PolyWorks has developed a more quicker and more automated way of dumping that information into your report pages straight away. So with that set to the tree view, next time I take a snapshot, create a table, it will stick the items into our tree instead. We also have inspected this numerous times. There should be 30 pieces, I believe. So all the pieces are in there. And the actual project itself needs to be open in order for the actual workbook or Excel spreadsheet to connect to. And we do that by simply clicking on this button here, the Show Reporting Tools here. You can see we have the option to simply connect to PolyWorks. Again, that won't connect if you don't have an open project. Once it's opened, it will show you which project is active and which piece is active. So piece 1 is currently active. You can see the background there. And the kind of information we can see in here is your project properties. You've got your piece properties, and then you can even view your control view information. So you can see we have all controls or controls specifically for holes, angles, lengths that we've set up manually with using the control reviewer. We have options to view the individual measurements themselves, so we can actually view each of the features one by one. Comparison points, calipers and so forth, or as I mentioned before, any report items that are in the tree. The actual spreadsheet, however, cannot access the actual report template, the report layout. So your formatted reports, whatever you've dumped in there, sadly Excel can't see that information. So let's actually show you this in action. So what I'm actually going to do in this case here is actually set up a template, set up a table. So I want to say, for example, report control information, and then maybe the object name. Let's have tolerance. But what we'll also need to do is do an upper tolerance and a lower tolerance. I'll explain why that is in a moment. Nominal information, measured information, deviations, and then even a pass, or fail status. Let's go ahead and make this a little bit more pretty. Let's stick in some color in there for your title headers. Column headers. Space those out nicely. Let's even go as far as giving it some nice little borders here just to make it look like a proper table and so forth. So let's go ahead and, so rather than trying to view the individual information, I personally tend to just look at the overall controls. All controls allow me to view just all the results in one location. Obviously, the downside of that is you will see everything, but we have a handy search tool in here. So say, for example, in this scenario, I actually only want to report specifically the control of diameters. So if I start typing in this search box, you can then see it starts to filter information out, showing me my diameter measurements only. So in order for me to fill that control in this case, I can obviously manually type it in if I wanted to, but to show you in action, the report loop, I can actually select one of my controls, namely the diameter, and insert that information into whichever cell I highlight in my report document, in my workbook, sorry. So if I insert, you can see there it sticks in the diameter text in the cell, but actually in the background you can see it does more than that. It actually sticks in this complex long string, which is a complex link to specifically PolyWorks and information. It's not just dumping the text in there Again, what that means is it will then be able to update that if anything changes. Let's go ahead and do the same with our object name for our first measurement, which is the whole central hole. If I scroll across this, you can see here there's more information that we can report. Okay, but if I right click, you can see there's even more information that I can report. Deviations, test columns, and so forth. There's a lot of information that you can report in there. This can get a little bit cramped, so if you actually wanted to, we could rearrange this. This is actually a separate window which is snapped to the left hand side. If you hover your mouse over the top here where it says PolyWorks Reporting Tools, I can actually click and drag that and pull it out as a separate window, or I can actually drag it and snap it to the top, and you can see there it spreads it across the top half of the screen. At which point everything then spreads out a little bit more, and I can rearrange these a little bit more easily because I can see more in one go. I didn't want that, so if I make a mistake, not a problem, I can just reinsert. So my upper tolerance for my first central hole, let's filter again or search again for diameter. So my upper tolerance is 0.1. Just a note, rather than simply highlighting and then clicking insert every time, if you wanted to, you can actually just simply double click and it'll insert that information in there straight away. So lower tolerance, I can insert that as well. We have our nominal information. We have measured, deviation, tests, which are in the same order as we have in our spreadsheet. So you could, if you wanted to, actually highlight multiple cells in the report loop ribbon and then insert all those at once as well. And you can see it inserts those at the same time. To make my life even easier, as I already mentioned, you can turn on or off certain column information. So my table that I've actually generated here doesn't have any characteristic information, so I can turn those off. I don't have, in this case, any warning, upper low warning values. But you'll notice that I don't also have an overall tolerance that I've created. It has the upper and lower tolerances, but no overall tolerance. So in this case, what I'll have to do is I'll create a simple formula in there. To make my life even easier again, what I can also do is rearrange the columns. So as you saw, I can actually highlight multiple cells and insert them at the same time, but they will need to be in the right order. In this case, you can see here the nominal comes before the measured, but after the tolerances. So I can just simply drag and drop the nominal column in between the tolerance and the measured. So now those are in the same order. We have a gap there anyway, which is where we have our control list, but we don't need that list because I've already filled in that one cell. They're all the same. So in this case, I can highlight, say for example, that that remaining column. Just note you could click on the top as well to select the entire column. You can click on the cell on the far left to select the entire row, much like you would in Excel, as you can see there. But in this case, I don't need them all. I just need circles 1 to 6. And again, because I've highlighted that row, that column of information, when I insert this into this cell here, it will repeat the same process and insert them downwards as well. And then what have I left? I've got my circle 1 upper tolerance all the way over to my test, all the way down to circle 6. So you can see I've highlighted all those at once. And again, I'm going to insert them all at once into my workbook there. Nice, quick and easy. And again, like I said, all that information there isn't just simple values, it's actual complex formula in the background, which establishes a connection between this workbook and your workspace project. As I mentioned, the tolerance, overall tolerance value here, there's nothing I can directly insert for that. So what I'll probably do in this case is just do a quick formula. So I'll do if, say for example, this column here is equal to nothing, let's leave it as nothing, and then otherwise let's have D4 minus E4. So it'll be upper tolerance minus lower tolerance. As you can see there, it gives me the overall tolerance there. And I can just simply send that straight down, duplicating that formula for all those. Nice and easy. Let's reposition that again. I'm going to snap it to the left, give myself a bigger area to work with. What I'm also going to quickly do is, let's just quickly add a table around that. borders around that, sorry. Let's create I don't know, a border around that, for example. The reason why I'm doing that is obviously you don't have to do that. I'm just again making things look pretty, if you like. But I'm going to actually insert a snapshot in this case. So we are looking at whole information here. So circle, central hole and circles 1 to 6 are all whole information, and we have a snapshot for those holes here. So I'm going to select that snapshot and insert that in. And you'll notice in this case it does fill a large area of my spreadsheet, and it even overlaps my previous table here. So I'm going to actually move it around, and you can see the reason why I've got that border there is just to make it a little bit easier for me to line things up. I can resize it. Oops. Obviously that can then start to stretch and squash. So if you need to, hold shift so it remains, so it keeps the aspect ratio. You can see I've actually probably not got the right size border there, but that's fine. I can quickly update that. I can say add one to the left, but then remove the top, right and bottom. Okay, so it looks like my snapshot has a little table, a little border around it now, just to make it look pretty, if you like. And one more thing, I'm going to quickly just rename this spreadsheet to piece 1. So that's how easy it is to establish a connection between your workbook and your workspace project, and then how easy it is to insert that information in. What we're going to do now then is I'm going to show you how quick and easy it is to potentially insert the next piece information into my workbook. There's 3 ways of doing this, or 3 options if you like. But just a heads up, I won't be doing it for all 30 pieces. I'll only do it for the first 10, for example, just to save a bit of time, rather than just sit here waiting for it to churn through all that information. So all you need to do is jump into your report loop ribbon again. And we have this button here, your add pieces. And as I mentioned, there are 3 options available to you where you can actually get PolyWorks or Excel to populate the next piece information into either a completely separate workbook, so you'll actually have multiple Excel documents for each piece, per piece, sorry. You can keep it all in one workbook, but then have each piece information populate a new spreadsheet. Or if you want to keep everything in the same workbook, same worksheet, but populate the next set of cell, the next set of column information or row information into the same sheet. In this example, I'll show you 1 sheet per piece. So just jump in into this option here. It will warn you that you do need to save your project so everything is fully up to date. So I can just OK that and go into PolyWorks. You can see the reason why this is needs saving is mainly because I've turned things on and off visually, even though nothing's really changed. You can see that there's a little star there. That normally tells you that you've made a change to the project and needs to be saved. So if I save it, you'll see that little star disappear. And you can even see there Excel registers that or recognizes that and tells you that that piece has been updated. So okay, that now, as I mentioned, I'll go to add pieces. Let's go to 1 sheet per piece. The source will be piece 1, which is my first sheet. And then you can see there we have all the other pieces listed in here. It will also automatically get the name of that piece plus add the name report, the word report at the end of that. But you can type in there whatever you like to name each of those sheets. Sorry. Untick all of them, and I'm going to manually tick, say for example, the first 10, or up to piece 10, since we already have piece 1. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and click Add Sheets. And what's going to happen now is it will actually, because it's connected to PolyWorks, it will actually load up piece 2. It will then grab the information from piece 2, dump it into a new worksheet. It will then load up piece 3, grab the information, and again, dump it into a new worksheet each time. And you can see along the bottom here, you can see we've got piece 1, piece 2 report, piece 3 report, piece 4 report, and so forth. And this will even give you a status here. Green ticks to say it's done, a percentage value, which in this case kind of rapidly goes to 100% to say it's done. And you'll also notice in the background, it's actually maintaining the same kind of formats. It's remember the colors of our filled in cells, the borders, even the size of the snapshot has maintained that information. It's not just dumping in a fresh new snapshot, filling the entire screen like it did before. It's able to maintain that format there. One key note though, if you are familiar with Excel, and you've done a lot of work with Excel in the past, you may have used the actual format as table option, which allows you to select a group of cells, turn it into a dedicated table of its own, giving you the option to sort and filter out information based upon the columns and so forth. You can even tell it that there are specific headers in there, and that also allows you. It will also, depending on what you select, allow you to color in different, the alternative cell row, just to make it a little bit easier to view. That sadly is not compatible with ReportLoop because it generates, it groups those cells into a table. It creates some sort of a link in the background to say these cells are all part of this group as a table. Because of that, when PolyWorks tries to insert information into those cells, that will conflict with that background information, and you'll end up duplicating the same value across all the cells. It won't actually it won't let you insert individual values, allow you to update automatically. So currently that is one of the limitations I know of, using the option to let me show you. If I just close that, you can see they're all done. If I go into my home page, the option to actually create format as table, where you can see there, these are these nice styles with alternating colors for rows, dedicated table headers and so forth. Those will be an issue with ReportLoop. Keep up to date with the latest versions though. I believe they are looking into that, because obviously that is a pretty handy tool to quickly format your tables, but hopefully they will be able to allow you to then use ReportLoop with that information in there. So if I go through each of these pieces, you can see there we have our issues. So we have our snapshots, table information with any issues and stuff. So let's say whether passing or failing. So you can see each of those are in there as individual sheets rather than it being individual workbooks, or just simply populating the next set of cells. So that's one scenario that we can use ReportLoop with, i.e. creating a brand new workbook and populating that information in quite quickly. I'll show you another example of this, but what happens if we actually have a dedicated formatted spreadsheet or a measurement plan that you have already all this information preset that you need to then populate from PolyWorks. Now in this example, I'm going to show you two templates that are actually available for you to download from Minimetrics Technical Support Zone. So let me just close this down. I won't bother saving this. But if I go here, I've downloaded, what we have is these two templates, which are available, as I mentioned, from the Technical Support Zone. We have what we call a Type 1 gauge study, which assesses the effects of bias and repeatability of a measurement that requires a certified reference of known dimensions. And the output from that study consists of two metrics, your CG and CGK value, which is your gauge capability and gauge capability index. Whereas in this example, what I'm going to do is I'm going to run through a gauge R study. And the gauge R assesses the repeatability and stability of the measurement system, does not require a certified reference, and an IMR chart, or an individual moving range chart, is used as a bias for the evaluation of variation and stability. So I'm going to open up this piece of this template here, and you can see everything in here is nicely formatted. Obviously the full description of what this study is for, and obviously we have multiple sheets set up. There are three main types of sheets. We have our main measurement data, where we actually populate the majority of the information. We then have our study results, which will process information, give us our results in there, and then you get to view each of your characteristics that you're analyzing. So again, let's go ahead and open up our PolyWorks ReportLoop ribbon, and let's go ahead and connect to PolyWorks. Again, just to reiterate, we are connecting to a full version of PolyWorks, so the Inspector Premium. This can also connect to your probing version, your standard version, but also the the PolyWorks Reviewer version as well, the free version. So in this case, let's go ahead and start to populate this sheet with our information. So we have part name to begin with. So if I actually go into my corner bracket project, you can see there we have our part name. I can go ahead and insert my part name, part number. Don't actually have a gauge number in this case, so I'm going to leave that out. Operator name, so that would be based upon my piece, who actually did the inspection, in this case me. Date information of when this was all done, I'll just stick in for our first piece maybe, the acquisition date of our first piece. There is some other information that we could populate with regards to our study options. So number of iterations. This sheet does actually give you a breakdown of what that is. So the number of iterations, how many measurements we're doing, ideally between 30 and 50. You could do a minimum of 10 if you wanted to, but obviously for better results, you want to do at least 30, if not more. Study variation in units, obviously we're working in millimeters in this case, and the method of estimating the standard deviation, whether we're using an average moving range or using sample standard deviation. Again, this will just affect the kind of the way your study works. We've got shortcuts to each of these spreadsheets. So if I click on this view button here for characteristic 1, it just jumps me to the characteristic 1 worksheet there. And then we have our characteristic definitions, our nominal information to do with our measurements. So currently this document only allows you to analyze 10 characteristics or 10 measurements. So if I go into my control views and look at all controls, let me quickly right click and enable my characteristic numbers, characteristic names. We don't need measured, so get rid of measured, deviation, or test. So we have exactly what we have available in the in those cells there. If I need to, I can just double click to resize, or just click and drag. You'll notice actually no characteristic names in there, so that column will be blank in this example. Let me adjust these. Again, might be a little bit easier if I actually drag that out and have it along the page rather than down the side of the page, just to make sorting out these columns and stuff a little more easier. Again, to match this, I've got my characteristic number, characteristic name, object name, control, nominal needs to be moved over, and then upper tolerance, lower tolerance. And just to quickly show you, again, they've actually created an overall tolerance which doesn't exist in PolyWorks. So you can see here, there's just another quick formula there to calculate that for you. I've accidentally filled that in, so get rid of that. You can see there's a lot of characteristics available. In this case, I will do the first 10. So we got kind of our circles 1 to 4, I think. But you've got each characteristic for not only the diameter, but positional GD&T to A, B, and C. So that's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to quickly highlight those, go down to characteristic number 10, and just simply insert that in there. So even though our characteristic column is empty, it will obviously enter in nothing for the characteristic name, but it still has a link. So you can still see it actually does fill information in there. So if I do end up changing or adding the characteristic names at a later point, this spreadsheet will update automatically with that information in there. And then you can see there we've got our object names, controls, nominal values if they exist, upper, lower tolerance, and then the overall tolerances between them. I'm going to go drag this back to the left hand side now, just to make it a little bit easier. So the bottom section here is for our measurement results for each of those characteristics. So that's for our first piece, and we have our 10 characteristics along there. So in this case, I just need to simply right click, enable my measured values. You can see I can even sort by ascending, descending orders and so forth. So you can actually sort those if need be. But I'm going to go across and highlight my measured values for my first 10. there. Now, as you've seen previously, whenever I highlight a row or a column of cells, when I insert that into my spreadsheet, it will mimic that order. It will actually, if I'm highlighting the column in this case, it will paste them in a column order, which doesn't work with our spreadsheet here. This is per piece. For each of the characteristics, whereas we've got one piece with our characteristics going downwards rather than across. So normally in the older versions of PolyWorks, what you'll actually need to do to get around this is actually just manually fill in those cells one at a time. So as I select my first column, I'll fill in my first row. I'll then have to select my next columns, insert into my next row, and so forth. Which obviously can be quite time consuming, but with the recent updates in PolyWorks, there is now an actual tick box along the bottom here, which allows us to actually transpose that insert. So rather than it mimicking the column insert, it will actually transpose it so it becomes a row insert. So you can see here I've got my first cell highlighted, I've got my column information highlighted, insert that, and you can see it goes along the row rather than down the column, just by ticking on this transpose option here, which is very useful. So our first one is done there. What we need to do now is obviously insert the rest of the measurements from our other pieces, at which point we'll do it for all 30 in this case. Again, just for time purposes, I'm not going to do all pieces in one go. I'll just do, say, for example, the first 10 again. And then what I'll do is I'll show you one that I've made earlier, with all the pieces in there, and then I'll show you what happens if you want to, if anything changes in PolyWorks, how we can change the inspection program, and show you how we can update things in the spreadsheet quite easily. So to do that, I'm going to show you a slightly different option in terms of adding pieces. In this case, I need to highlight the row of information that I wish to duplicate and update for all the different pieces. I then jump into the add piece button here, and the difference in this case is I'm going to show you this last option here, the specific cells option. If I jump in there, you can see here the source cells, i.e. the cells that it's going to kind of mimic, will be D39 to M39. So D column there, row 39 over to the M column. And then piece 2 information will be populated in the next row of cells. So D40 to M40. Piece 3 will be D41 to M41 and so forth. Now, if I didn't want that for whatever reason, I actually want it to go in the next row of information rather than, the next column of information rather than row of information. You've got these 2 buttons here. So we're actually using the reset first destination to the cell below rather than reset the first destination to the right of the cell. So again, I'm not going to do them all. I'm just going to do the first 10, for example. And again, just simply add pieces. And this will then start to, again, work through our pieces, load in the next row information, load in the next piece, copy across the information to the next row, and so forth. So again, it's pretty quick compared to copy and pasting, but if you've got a lot of pieces, in our case 30 odd pieces, this could take a little while because it has to load each piece. How quickly that does obviously can be affected by how big the actual piece information is. So if there's a really big scan in there with lots of measurements in there, obviously it can take a little bit longer to open that piece up, load the information across, compared to if you've probed a couple of holes and that's it, nothing else. That may be a little bit quicker because there's little information that it needs to load in each time. This is almost done. So piece 9 and then piece 10. And then I'll be able to close this window down once it's done. Okay, so we close, and you can see it's populated all that information in there. Just to quickly show you, again, I can show you the results of our 10 so far. So as you see here, PolyWorks, or Inimetrics, sorry, have created this template and does remind you in this red text here that you do need to update the analysis by pressing Control Alt and F5 just so it updates the calculations in the background. So I'm going to do that here, Control Alt and F5. You can see it's updated the actual equipment variation and tolerance, percentage of tolerance. If I go into my the individual characteristic sheets, again, Control Alt and F5 again, just to make sure that updates properly. You can see there we have results of our first 10 measurements, and then it kind of flat lines because the rest are 0 essentially. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to close this one down. I'm going to quickly open up one that I have done earlier, just to show you all the pieces in there. Okay, so you can see that probably all the rest of the information in there. But you notice that we've got one missing. We've actually got 1 to 29, but not piece 30. So if I actually go into my project here, you can see, yeah, we don't actually have piece 30 in there. So I'm missing a piece. So that is deliberate. I'm going to show you actually how we can actually progress. How we would add a new piece and then update that spreadsheet as well. So everything in here is ready to go. We just need that extra piece. And before we can do that, we go into PolyWorks. I'm going to tell PolyWorks to inspect a new piece. So it's automatically going to add a new name, in this case, piece 30. So create. And then I'm going to pick a scan file for it to load in. So we have piece 30 there. So open that up. Okay, it's going to import that in. Obviously, try and best fit, extract the features, update the alignment to the data reference frame alignment, and then extract the rest of the information. The comparison points, calipers, color maps, snapshots, tables, all that will update. But before I continue, you may notice that doesn't quite look very good. If I actually zoom in a little bit closer, you'll notice that the holes seem off. Reason being is mainly because of that best fit. The best fit is using the automatic pre-alignment. What's actually happening is this, because the part is somewhat uniform, you can actually flip it the other way around. You've still got the same row of holes on either side, but the automatic pre-alignment looks at more of an overall shape. It doesn't look at the details as much. So in this case, we probably have the part flipped the wrong way around. So what I'm going to do is just simply update the alignment. I'm going to get PolyWorks to redo the best fit, but this time rather than using the automatic pre-alignment, I'm going to do a manual point pairs instead. Before I do that, let me get into a better orientation. I'm going to use the pre-align using point pairs. Oops, I need to bring the CAD back as well. There you go, and then I'm going to spin one around and then just use a single point pair to snap the two together. Snaps it together, does the best fit, updates the color map, updates the rest of your measurements. However, just to keep note that you notice that the best fit alignment is now the active alignment. Because we've tweaked it, it's updated it, it has now become the active one. Not a problem. I just need to reactivate my data reference frame alignment to A, B, and C. All that has updated, so that will just simply shift across to match that alignment. Save my changes. And then Excel should be ready to populate with this new information. So just like I did before, I'm going to highlight my first row because that was the initial information that I inserted in, and then I'm going to jump into my report loops ribbon, open up my spreadsheet, connect to PolyWorks, updates on the information. We have piece 30 active, but that doesn't really matter here because I'm actually going to use the add piece option. Again, use the specific cells. It sees that it doesn't bother ticking pieces 1 to 29. It knows that they've already been done. It only ticks piece 30 because it knows that hasn't been done. And that will go into row 68. So add pieces. And I'll just simply insert that one piece there that's missing. Nice and handy. Okay, so should be able to close that now. You can see information is all in there now. Do a quick refresh, and then I'll show you again. We have our study results. We have our individual charts with now all 30 pieces in there. You'll probably notice that there seems to be an odd spike for piece 9. If you've got a sharp eye, you may have seen that the snapshot for it that I showed you for the first 10 pieces. You may notice that there's something wrong with piece 9 as well. Again, that is deliberate, but I'm going to show you in this case how we can correct that and then how the spreadsheet will simply update. So I'm going to jump back into PolyWorks, go to piece 9, which is the offending piece. You can see again the color map looks way off and the holes are way off. Again, simple solution is that best fit pre-alignment wasn't correct. So I'll correct that again in this example. So right click, pre-align using point pairs, spin that around, pick my single point, snaps the two together, updates the alignment, updates the measurements. I just need to reactivate my datum reference frame alignment, and everything is updated. So now if I save this, Excel will get a notification of that, telling me that piece 9 has been updated. If I OK that, and then simply refresh the sheet. So again, Control Alt and F5. You'll notice that spike in piece 9 has now disappeared. Okay, you can see our results there. So that is how easy it is to use ReportLoop. Very useful, very powerful, can save you a lot of time. And obviously with the new iterations that have been released, I mean, ReportLoop first came out, I believe, in 2019, I think. Back in the early versions, that you could only really insert the information one at a time, or a small group at a time, rows, columns, but that was about it. There's no way you couldn't transpose the information. If you had turned on or off any of the column information or resized any of that, if you then picked on a different item, a different object in that list, that modification that you did to the column information and the column widths and so forth would reset every time, which was bit of a nuisance in some cases. Now new releases have added more and more functionality to it, so do keep an eye on new releases. As I mentioned, there could be even more changes to come with as PolyWorks progresses. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it for this webinar. Again, ReportLoop, just to reiterate, it is free to download. You can install it and start using it straight away with any version of PolyWorks, be it the probing version, the standard version, premium version, or again, even the free version, the the PolyWorks Reviewer. And it works with, obviously, like I said, Excel 365, or even the standalone versions, the 2016s, 2013s, maybe even 2010. I'm not too sure on those, on the older ones. But yeah, if you have any questions, again, I probably should have mentioned this earlier, but we do have our chat available. So if you have any questions, please feel free to type that in. If not, and you got some questions that you can think of later on, again, please do get in touch. Drop us an email, give us a call. We can obviously help you via email, over the phone, or even remotely via GoToAssist or Teams. So if you want to see this in action, feel free to get in touch. This video or the stream will become a video available on Vimeo and YouTube. So you can always watch this and refer back to this at a later point. Otherwise, thanks again for joining us, and hopefully see you in the next one. In the meantime, we'll leave the stream going. Again, if you've got any questions, please do put it in the chat. Otherwise, thank you. Stay safe. See you again.